Am I the for abruptly cutting my fiancé out of my life? Original post. I'm 25 years old and met my now ex-fiancée during my first year of college. We were both 18 at the time and transitioned from friends to lovers quite swiftly. Our connection was incredibly strong, and everything between us felt effortless. We had what many would consider a dream relationship, the kind that people aspire to have. It was the type of relationship that others idolized, with some even saying that if we were to ever break up, then love itself didn't exist. You get the idea. For the sake of this post, let's refer to my ex-fiancée as Ashley. Ashley embodied everything I desired in a partner. She was funny, smart, attractive, family-oriented, and down-to-earth. We both wanted to build a life together, and our families grew close over the course of our relationship. It felt like we were already one big family even before tying the knot. As planned, I proposed to Ashley a year ago, unaware that this moment would alter everything. She said yes, of course, but over the following months, things began to change gradually. She became more distant, and while I initially attributed it to pre-wedding nerves, I soon realized there was more to it. Ashley started spending more time with her group of friends, particularly on weekends. While I had accompanied her on such outings before, which typically involved clubbing and drinking, not really my scene, but I trusted her, these outings became more frequent after our engagement. Despite my gut feeling that something wasn't right, I tried to ignore it. Then, last week, I received a text from one of Ashley's friends. She expressed deep guilt about what had been happening. According to her, Ashley had been grappling with concerns about marriage, feeling as though she hadn't explored other options. To cope with this anxiety, she engaged in flirtatious behavior with other guys during these outings, including dancing, grinding, and even making out with them. Ashley didn't consider it cheating since she wasn't sleeping with them. Furthermore, her friend revealed that Ashley had performed oral sex on a guy in a club bathroom. She even sent me pictures and videos of these encounters. Upon receiving this information, my heart sank, and I felt utterly devastated. It was as though my world came crashing down. I thanked the friend for informing me and asked her to keep it between us. For me, any form of cheating is a deal breaker. What makes this situation particularly painful is that I have a history with cheating, which Ashley knows about. In high school, I was cheated on by an ex, and it caused me immense pain. Despite knowing firsthand the hurt it causes, Ashley still chose to betray my trust. Now, I'm grappling with feelings of betrayal, hurt, and confusion. Am I the bad guy for deciding to end things abruptly? Should I have tried to salvage the relationship despite the betrayal? I'm at a loss. I wanted to retreat to bed and cry for days. I felt utterly defeated, but I made a conscious decision to allow myself time to grieve and process everything. My fiancé and I share a rented apartment, splitting the costs equally. Determined to protect myself, I took 2 days off work and quietly began moving my belongings to my brother's house across town. He was aware of the situation and graciously offered me his space. On the first day, I relocated non-essential items, and when Ashley returned from work, she made a passing remark about it. I casually explained that I had sold some belongings and moved others to a storage unit to declutter our living space. Though seething inside with anger over what I had discovered, I maintained a calm exterior to avoid suspicion. While she noticed my withdrawal, I attributed it to fatigue and work stress. The following day, while Ashley was at work, my brother and his wife assisted me in packing up the remaining items, and by 3:00 p.m., I had completed my move. Since then, I have ignored every attempt at communication from my ex-fiancée. I have severed all ties and refused to engage with her or her family. Confronting her about her actions holds no appeal to me. When she returned home and found the apartment empty, she reached out to my friends and family, but I only responded to my parents, who fully support my decision. Despite facing backlash from her friends and family, including social media attacks, I remain resolute. To me, she is no longer part of my life. However, the criticism from my brother and his wife has caused me to question my actions. So, here I am, wondering if I am in the wrong for cutting off all communication. Top comments before reading the updates, not the a whole. She knows what she did. You might want to inform everyone to clear your name. I wouldn't go into too much detail, but the crux of the matter is she cheated. Opie's main plea here is to avoid harassment and give him the space he needs to process this. He's currently trying to distance himself from his now ex-fiancée, opting for a kind of silent exit strategy. However, some might argue that this approach, while avoiding direct confrontation, could potentially backfire. Even though he's armed with evidence, it might have been wiser to confront her directly rather than disappearing without a word. It's crucial to request honesty when discussing the situation with mutual friends, especially considering the evidence at hand. If Opie chooses to completely withdraw without explanation, there's a risk that his ex will craft a narrative where he's painted as the villain, giving her free rein to spread her version of events. Opie rightfully believes that he should retrieve his engagement ring and his share of the apartment deposit. After all, discovering that your fiancé has been engaging in intimate activities with strangers in club bathrooms is a definite deal breaker. So, the consensus seems to be that cutting off all contact and blocking her is the most sensible course of action. Additionally, there's a strong sentiment in favor of informing her parents about her infidelity and letting others know the truth about what happened. However, there's a nuanced discussion about whether it's appropriate to share incriminating evidence with her parents and siblings. While it's understandable to want to inform them verbally, sharing graphic images or videos could be emotionally distressing and invasive. Ultimately, Opie decides to send her one message instructing her to have her family back off before blocking her. It's a tough decision, but one that he feels is necessary to protect his own mental and emotional well-being. In a mini-update, Opie acknowledges the overwhelming response urging him to reach out to her parents and provide an explanation to clear his name. He expresses gratitude for the support and promises to provide updates on the situation. In the subsequent full update, Opie reflects on his decision to break his silence. Despite the pain of betrayal, he acknowledges that part of him still cares for his ex-fiancée, given their 6-year relationship. However, he recognizes the importance of setting the record straight with her parents to ensure they understand the truth of what happened. Opie emphasizes that only her family needs to know the details, while the opinions of others are less relevant to him. He opts not to distribute incriminating images out of respect, instead choosing to provide a detailed explanation to his closest friends and family. With this step taken, Opie moves forward with the intention of contacting her parents to clear the air and bring closure to this painful chapter of his life. I messaged her mom, whom I had developed a close relationship with, akin to having a second mother. Despite her evident disappointment, she agreed to meet up. Feeling that an in-person conversation was more appropriate, I arranged to meet her and her dad at a diner where we often had breakfast. The setting felt oddly familiar yet emotionally charged. Understandably, they were distraught by my abrupt departure from their lives without any explanation. As they confronted me about it, I remained silent, absorbing their grievances. I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness, and tears welled up in my eyes. However, the atmosphere shifted drastically when they accused me of something unfathomable: cheating. It had been a tumultuous week since the breakup, and I had been grappling with the fallout from her deceitful actions. According to her parents, my ex had concocted a narrative where she portrayed herself as the victim, claiming that she had kicked me out due to my infidelity. I was dumbfounded by their unquestioning acceptance of her version of events. The sheer absurdity of the situation was enough to make me want to walk away before I said something I'd regret. But as I left, I realized that I couldn't let her false accusations tarnish my reputation. Fueled by frustration and a sense of injustice, I decided to take action. I drafted an email titled "For Your Reading Pleasure," attaching every damning piece of evidence I had gathered: the incriminating photos, videos, and screenshots of her conversations admitting to her guilt. I provided a comprehensive account of everything that had transpired since the breakup, laying bare the truth for all to see. In the email, I made it clear that I had no desire for further communication and requested the return of my engagement ring. I sent it not only to her parents but also to her friends, co-workers, and anyone else who might have been misled by her fabrications. While some may view my actions as extreme, I refuse to allow her to tarnish my integrity with baseless accusations. As I await the fallout from my decision, I find solace in the support of my brother, who has graciously offered me a place to stay during this tumultuous time. Despite the uncertainty of what lies ahead, I am resolved to stand my ground and reclaim my truth. And through it all, I am reminded of the importance of honesty and transparency, as advocated by the supportive community on Reddit. Typically, Individuals tend to contemplate cheating after a lengthy relationship, especially one entwined with family and mutual friends. This foresight enables them to strategically manipulate those around them, facilitating a smoother transition as they move forward. Concealing the reasons behind one's actions can indeed complicate matters. As one commenter astutely pointed out, it's imperative for the individual to disclose the truth to their family, shedding light on the situation. If someone is capable of deceiving their partner behind their back, they are undoubtedly capable of fabricating a narrative to suit their needs. Including screenshots of messages and snippets before the fallout can provide crucial context. It's hardly surprising that the parents sided with their daughter. After all, she is their flesh and blood. Despite the sequence of events, familial loyalty often takes precedence. The confusion arises from the conflicting narratives. On one hand, the ex claims to have kicked out the individual, while on the other hand, they were accused of abruptly leaving without explanation. This dissonance in accounts may stem from delayed revelations or a lack of clarity surrounding the circumstances. The condemnation directed at the individual for their sudden departure without communication likely stems from a perception of abandonment and a perceived lack of remorse. However, the decision to sever ties was a conscious choice, driven by a desire to disengage from a toxic situation. The ex's attempt to vilify them and tarnish their reputation underscores the need for accountability. While it's understandable that the parents would defend their daughter, the repercussions of her actions cannot be ignored. The individual's reluctance to engage further reflects a commitment to prioritizing their well-being and distancing themselves from the ensuing drama. In a separate account, the dilemma of whether one is justified in refusing to assist with a child conceived during their college years presents a complex moral quandary. As a freshman in college, an accidental pregnancy arose despite precautions. The circumstances surrounding the conception, including the failure of hormonal birth control, compounded the situation. I anticipated that the pregnancy would likely lead to termination, given that we had previously discussed this possibility in our relationship. Both of us agreed that such a decision would be the most prudent course of action. However, when faced with the reality of the situation, she opted to proceed with the pregnancy against my wishes. Despite our prior agreement and my clear stance on the matter, she chose to move forward independently. When subsequent testing revealed that the child would have a disability, I reiterated my objections to continuing with the pregnancy. I made it abundantly clear to her that I was not willing to take on the responsibility of raising a child with such needs. I reminded her of our previous agreement and emphasized the immense challenges and sacrifices involved in caring for a severely disabled child. Despite my warnings, she chose to disregard my concerns and proceeded with the pregnancy. I felt frustrated and powerless as I watched events unfold, knowing that this was not the path I wanted for my life. I only saw the child once before her parents legally adopted him, effectively relieving me of any rights and obligations. After our relationship ended and I lost contact with her, I focused on building the life I wanted. I completed my studies, pursued my career goals, and moved forward with determination. Recently, she reached out to me after finding me on social media. However, her message brought news of difficult times. Both of her parents had passed away, leaving her to shoulder the responsibility of caring for her son, who is profoundly disabled. The financial strain of caring for her son, combined with the emotional toll of losing her parents, has left her struggling to cope. Despite her best efforts, she lacks the resources and support necessary to provide the level of care her son requires. His condition necessitates constant attention and specialized care, adding further challenges to an already difficult situation. I made it abundantly clear to her that I was unwilling to involve myself in any way. I emphasized the importance of exploring alternative avenues for assistance, such as government aid or charitable organizations that might offer support that her parents hadn't considered. Furthermore, I suggested that she look into the possibility of placing him in a specialized care facility if she felt overwhelmed by the responsibilities. After conveying this message, I firmly stated that I wished to sever all communication with her and took measures to block her from contacting me again. While my wife shares my stance on not assuming responsibility for the situation, she raised the point that we might have a moral obligation to provide some level of financial assistance. However, I respectfully disagreed with her suggestion, expressing concern that offering any financial aid could lead to further entanglements and expectations. My position remains unwavering. I have no desire to be involved in any capacity. As for the feedback from others, it seems that the consensus is aligned with my perspective. Despite being the biological father, the child was legally adopted by his grandparents, effectively absolving me of any legal obligations. Since my rights and responsibilities were terminated upon the adoption, there is no legal or moral imperative for me to step in now, years later. While I empathize with the challenging circumstances, providing financial assistance could potentially set a precedent for ongoing demands for support. Suggestions were offered for my ex to pursue Social Security benefits on behalf of her son, considering his disabilities and the passing of his grandparents. This would ensure that he receives the necessary financial support for his care. Additionally, it was noted that if he resides in the United States, he may be eligible for survivor benefits and disability payments through Social Security. Nevertheless, it remains clear that I am not legally or morally obligated to provide financial assistance in this scenario. Initially, I was inclined to view Opie as the one at fault, but now I find myself in complete agreement. It was ultimately her decision to carry the child and bring a profoundly disabled individual into the world. Given that her parents chose to adopt the child themselves, thereby assuming legal responsibility, you are absolved of any legal obligations in this matter. You foresaw the monumental challenges involved in raising such a child and wisely opted out. I commend your decision, and you are not in the wrong. However, if you do consider offering any form of assistance, it would be prudent to seek legal advice beforehand. Consulting with a family law attorney may be beneficial regardless. After reflecting on the advice provided in the comments, I have chosen to maintain my stance of refraining from direct involvement. However, upon learning that she was struggling to care for the boy independently, I took the initiative to contact social services in her state to report a vulnerable individual not receiving adequate care. Subsequently, I was contacted for further information and provided copies of relevant messages,